All right, get started tonight. I'd like to welcome everybody here. We got a nice crowd. It's good to see. Start with, we need to amend and or accept tonight's agenda. Does anybody have any amendments? I have none.
Make a motion, we approve the agenda as presented.
Support.
Okay, we have a motion and support for tonight's agenda. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? At this time, it is time for public comment. If there's anybody that has anything they would like to bring to the board, they have 2 minutes. I'm guessing we won't have any public comment tonight, so.
We have some public though. So
We do have public, yes.
We're getting them.
Yes, we have public, but no comments, that's okay. Moving on to our routine matters. We need to approve October minutes. Hope everybody got time to look that over.
Make a motion to approve.
Supported.
Okay, we have motion and support for our previous meeting in October. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We need to consider general fund invoices for payment. Matt?
All right, I'd like to make a motion to pay from the general fund, check 76209 through 76385 for a total of $261,284.99. And from food services, check 76210 through 76385 for $98,524.58.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have support for our payments?
Support for that.
The motion support for our payment of invoices. Any discussion, questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Moving on to reports and communications. Myself, I don't really have anything this month. Mr. Akam.
Okay. I'll leave some of the athletic updates for Mr. Miller. I don't want to steal his thunder because I know that was in his board report. But wanted to know our teams this fall were very successful. It was a good fall season. Asbestos updates. That sounded really bad. Asbestos abatement updates. How about that? We did receive proposals to abate the asbestos under the middle school gym floor. I put the quotes in the dollar amounts. I can share the quotes with you if you'd like. We had one quote that was $104,500 for the abatement, and the other one was $159,976. Now that's just for removal of the floor, abatement of the asbestos. That's not putting down the new gym floor or whatever else they may come across with that. But we do have those proposals in. I did not ask for a motion on this because I thought we needed to discuss this before we have a proposal regarding the track in the middle school gym floor. Track bid, we will be going out to bid. We're hoping at the end of the week, but realistically it'll be the beginning of next week. So when we do bids, we have to put them on the state website, or it's called Sigma. It's a state proposal where all these proposals sit in there. That's one of the things that I have to do. If you've not been in this program, it is not user-friendly. And it usually takes a couple hours to get it in there and to figure it all out. So that's why I'm saying early next week, because I typically run into problems, and you'd be surprised how many people you can't get in touch with on Friday afternoons regarding state websites. So we should have that going out to bid. One thing with that, you saw in the board report, the estimated was $1.7 million to redo the track. We put it around $700,000. I think it was $689,000 is what we asked for in the bond. So some of the things that we put in there were also, if you remember, the football field parking lot, practice lot, softball field parking lot, practice lot. We have all of those surveys in. drainage at the baseball field. So we have all of that stuff ready to go, but those are gonna go on as addendums, or add-ons, if you will, to the bids. So we will get prices for those included, so we're able to knock those off to see what the actual price was. I think one thing that we were not counting on was the additional drainage that's required in order to keep the track in good standing and good repair. There's a lot of drainage added to the field if you guys look at the drawings at all. If you wanna see the drawings, I can show them with you, or to you. Some of the engineering with the drainage I can't explain to you though. But we're working on that, as well as some of the equipment we can put out later for bid, purchase ourselves, different things like that. That will be able to lower the price down. The good news is, I do believe that we can get a track for close to what we proposed in the proposal. It just may not have some of the things that we added onto that. But yeah, that came in a lot higher than we anticipated. One of my concerns is a lot of things are gonna come in higher than what we anticipated, just with the state of everything right now in the nation. But we have that. We also have secure entries getting ready to go out to bid for the offices. I did include the secure entries in your packets. If you have any questions for that as far as the drawings go, please let me know. The biggest change is gonna be the high school office going down to Mr. Vanden's classroom with all the entries on the other side. Excited about that. The elementary and middle school, we will have to add just a couple of entry points, doorways into the offices. Those are pretty minor. We'll also have some new furniture in it that will also have security as far as higher countertops, access back into the offices being controlled. It'll be a much more secure environment. One of the additions that we'll do with the high school office is we'll be building office space into that classroom, but also a bathroom down in that end in the office area. If you have been on that end of the building, there aren't any facilities except till you come down this way. And we're fortunate the sewer line runs right through there. It's pretty accessible compared to having to do a lot of work to do that. Also another file room storage space. Currently we have what we call our dead files in the storage space. We're gonna have to move those because we're gonna need those for that classroom space. When I say dead files, those are for students that have graduated that we maintain their files for. So, any questions?
Scott, just on the middle school gym, this is just the abatement.
That is just the abatement.
What's the total that we projected for the total project? Was it like 235 or something like that, or
Pretty close to that, yeah,
Okay.
right around, I was gonna say 250, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So is that looking like, as far as the abatement and the replacement, that's gonna be good, or don't we know?
It potentially could be. I don't know what they're gonna find. My concern
Yeah,
is
that's unknown.
when they pull up that floor,
Yeah.
do we have cracks in the concrete? Do we have, what is under there that might be helping causing the weighting of the floor? That would be one of my concerns. I believe a gym floor replacement, I think they did estimate it around 130, 150, so that would be about 250 total.
So without anything unforeseen, we should be okay.
They were pretty close with the abatement. I remember when they gave us the estimate for the abatement, it was right around $100,000.
Yeah.
So.
And this will have to be a summer project.
It would be. Can't have kids in the building, we can't have people down on that end either. They figured it would be about a 3-week project to do the abatement and then another 3 weeks to put in the floor. The other thing that is not included in the cost of the abatement or the gym floor would be removal of the bleachers. We would have to pay a company to come in and remove the bleachers out so they could get underneath. Either way, even if we didn't have to do abatement and just were replacing the floor, we would have to do that too.
I think that's good, and I think it's really important that, and you know, that with the success we had with our bonds and sinking fund, that people really want to see something physical. And I think we're well on that track.
I do too. And the thing too, depending on the direction the board would like to go, is we will see all the things that we've asked for in the bond and sinking fund. It just might be a little bit longer than our initial timeline, which makes it nice with the sinking fund monies because we're able to save them, we can shift them, we can move them, we can shift projects. It's kind of, for lack of a better word, the genius of it, so.
Okay, any more questions for Mr. Aiken?
Do you know, Scott, are we gonna be, is it gonna be a prevailing wage job?
It's good.
Or don't we know yet?
For the track,
Yeah.
you asked me that last time, Dennis, and I completely forgot that.
What was the
I'm
question?
sorry.
Prevailing wage, cause there was,
Oh,
I mean, it's kicking back in, I think.
I think a lot of it is, yes.
I'll let you know tomorrow, I apologize, you asked me that and I missed that, so.
Thank you.
All right, anything else for Scott? Okay, moving on to our business manager who is unable to be here tonight, is not here, but she did submit a report. So, do I have any questions that maybe Scott can answer?
I will do my best. Pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
And yes, I don't really have a question, I just add some information to the one that we're moving the 2023 bond proceeds to MyLaugh. I found out a little bit more about that at the conference that I just returned from, and I didn't understand what MyLaugh was, but they actually were started by MESB back in 1987. And they're associated, it's really a three-prong between MESB, MSBO, and the MASA. And it's a very, very, very healthy plan. And each of those organizations get part of their earnings from that fund. MESB this year was almost $1 million that was funded to MESB from that fund. Very lucrative, and currently it's approaching $10 billion in assets. So it's very secure. And it's very, very helpful to schools. You know, they can lend money a lot cheaper than institutions. And so I just thought that was kind of a nice note.
It had a good interest rate too.
Yeah.
They'll be able to make some.
And that's their goal, to offer school financing at a very competitive rate.
Yeah.
So just for information.
Okay, thanks, Ken. Moving on to principals. Mr. Wisner, would you like to start tonight?
Sure. I don't have a ton to share. We had conferences end of October that went really well in the elementary. We always have a pretty good turnout for that. And so we're thankful for the time for parents to come in and meet with teachers and find out how their kids are doing in school, and just a really positive vibe in the elementary. So just a good evening all around. We had PD November 1st, and we really focused on instructional strategies in the elementary. We took a look at some data, and we looked at our current data and then 2 years past. Some of that involves some of the data that I had showed at our board meeting. We took a deeper dive and tried to identify some data trends, and then we talked about what instructional strategies would support our students in moving our data in more of an upward trend in reading and math. Halloween went well. We paraded downtown, thanks to Joy Roberts for helping with that, and lots of families down there. I heard, I didn't make it all the way down, but I heard that the streets were well lined. I saw lots of cars, so that was good. We've got a couple breaks coming up, and then concerts early December. We'll have K1-2, they'll have their Christmas concert early December, and then band will have their concert as well. So looking forward to those, and just getting through these kind of off weeks with the days off, but those breaks are nice too. So.
All right, any questions for David?
Are they scheduled, or are they?
They're scheduled.
They're scheduled, okay.
Yes.
And what was the participation rate, do you think, or?
We were at 100%, but we were very close, probably 90
Oh,
or so.
good.
Mrs. Hill is still collecting those sheets, and then she'll get me numbers.
Good.
Okay. Mr. Finster.
All right, November PD went well. We're continuing our curriculum alignment. We're almost done with the individual grade levels for the core content areas, and now we're getting ready to jump into vertical alignment to see, are we covering the standard 6th through 8th grade the way that we need to, because some areas are expected mastery, different grades are kind of introduction to make sure that we're hitting it and matching up with that. But it's been very positive work with the teachers and a lot of good conversations coming out of that. Our conferences, we were happy to see that our participation jumped up, especially with in our 8th grade category, where you tend to see in the past a bigger dip. We saw a great improvement there, so overall, participation is up on that. It was just a nice night to be able to visit with the parents. We also were able to have some good conversation with parents as we have rolled out a new attendance letter that we're doing K-12. One of the things research is showing is keeping parents more informed of where they sit based on days missed to overall days attended to school, so their attendance percentage, and handing that out. Really, they had congratulation letters to parents that were under less than 5% of days missed, or for those students of that, kind of a warning letter of 5 to 10%, and then if they're over that 10%, kind of discussing the risks that come with it. So that was nice to be able to have another talking point. It's not a truancy letter, it's more of a FYI, here's where you are. If you are in the yellow-red categories, here's things you can do to improve it, and as we add more days and you aren't adding more absences, you improve in your attendance rate. So that's another thing that's helping throughout the district is we boost that up. One of the things that didn't make it into the memo, but wanted to share out with you is I had a chance to meet with Erin Cucci and talk with her about our weight class in 8th grade as we're starting to look at classrooms for next year, options that we have, that being a new one, and really looking at the data that the kids are doing and kind of their growth that's happening with the weight room. The options, the biggest thing that we're hearing from kids is we need more kids. We limit it to 22 right now, and that's pushing it a little bit for size, but the wait list for the kids that are fighting to get in is huge, so we're excited to see that. The different aspects of kids that some were placed because it's the only option we had. Talking with those kids, how are you liking, how are you feeling, and they're seeing a lot of results. Individually as they're growing in it and strengthening, and the different core principles and not just, bulk up, but healthier lifestyle that goes with it and different things that they can even do at home. So the program is going fantastic. So far, the kids are a little mad that semester's coming to an end soon and new batches coming in. They want a full year, they want more options, they want more. So it was just good to see that and have that conversation with Erin as we went through and talk about, especially the kids that might not have wanted to sign up for it, but then we have a lot of kids that are in it that have kind of have their own personal training that she's been able to adapt the curriculum to match where they're at because they're in there all the time, before school, after school, doing that to support that. So we're seeing some really good results coming out of that class. So we're excited and we're hoping we'll be able to keep that for next year to keep encouraging that program with the kids and figure out a way to squeeze a couple more in, because our 7th graders have caught wind and now they're really already asking, when do we sign up, when do we sign up? Just wait a little bit, we got to at least get me to March before we even start committing to that. So that was just a cool thing as we went through and did evaluations through all of it, but especially the new program for the middle school and just continuing to look at increasing options for the kids to open up so they have an opportunity at exploring different things and different ideas. And then next week, hopefully, we'll be taking care of the giant tree in the auditorium lobby again this year to get that up and get ready for the Christmas season and be ready to continue to celebrate, so.
All right, any questions for Mr. Finstrom? Mr. Miller?
Hey, how's everybody doing tonight? Sorry I'm a little stuffed up, I'm still working through some things sickness wise, but I just want to start it off by congratulating our fall sports teams. As Mr. Akin indicated earlier, we've had a nice fall again with our competitiveness and all of our teams, specifically with varsity cross country. Congratulations to junior Chelsea Isinga and also freshman Caden Hinton. Both qualified for the state tournament and placed there. Just an outstanding year for both of them and Coach Lindsay. So thank you to the cross country team providing those exciting moments. Varsity volleyball, 4th straight district title. It's kind of a big deal. Consistency, Mr. Murphy and the girls. It was just another competitive year this year, and just it was exciting to watch them play, as well as our varsity football team qualifying for the tournament and winning their first district in a while, since I believe 2016. And so they traveled this weekend and unfortunately ran into a buzzsaw with Menominee. And so a really good Menominee team went to the UP. But I just want to note, thank you to our community and specific individuals who donated money for our charter bus so our kids could enjoy a little bit nicer of a ride on the way up. That's really special for them. And just wanted to note the community and our sports boosters who helped organize with that. And just it's a really special thing and a special thing that they're going to remember for their lifetime. So I appreciate the community doing that and stepping in. That was a nice thing to see. So CTC, we've had some kids be recognized again. Students of the quarter for first quarter, Devin Berge, Healy Bonham, Shauna Eisinga, Daniel McElhaney, Haley Miller, Audrey Randall, and Skylar Youngs. So it's always nice to see our kids recognized, and we do have quite a few going to CTC again this year. We have about half of our juniors and half of our seniors, and it's really nice to see them excel and get noted for different things. October co-op student of the month, I believe, Logan Madison. I also forgot to add him in there, but he was from October, so that was nice to see his name. A lot of things coming up as we transition with November, Thanksgiving holiday, as well as the Christmas holiday season. I was looking at the calendar. We have about 24 days, give or take, a half a day here and there. And so we've really challenged teachers over November 1st PD to really plan out intentionally for the rest of not only this semester, but also in the course of the year. There's a continued focus on literacy, and across all curriculums, we continue to work hard at trying to give kids what they need. But our NHS group is going to Chicago as well. That's from Thursday to Saturday, November 30th to December 2nd, so that's coming up. That's a big thing for them. Our PTO craft show, I do want to make sure to highlight that for everyone, if anybody's listening. So it's the Thanksgiving weekend there, the Saturday, the 25th, that'll be here at the school complex between, I think, 9 and 3 is what I see. So everybody, I know that's a big one to come and be a part of. Our sophomores will be visiting CTC in December, beginning of December 5th, to see if they would like, they picked 3 programs to go visit more in-depthly, so they can make a decision if they'd like to choose a program going into their junior year. So there's some of that going on as well. Yeah, so other than that, we'll just keep plugging away. As Troy noted, I think our kids are doing a great job showing up. Our attendance to school is remarkable as you look at the attendance rates as they compare to last year, as well as the area schools. It's really good. Our kids are showing up to school. They're being where they need to be, and so we have very, very few that we have to track down for some absenteeism. So anyway.
Okay, any questions for Ryan?
Did I understand half of the juniors and half the seniors go to CTC
Yeah,
there?
it's about half.
Like half day?
Yes, so.
Okay, most of them half day?
Yes, half of the students who are our juniors go a half a day. I can say things.
That's all?
All right, thanks, Ryan. Moving on to our committee reports. We had a couple of committees meet here in the last couple of weeks. Building and Grounds met, and we talked about the track, talked about the new offices, looked at those. What else did we talk about?
That was about it for the building and
That was
grounds.
about it, wasn't it?
What did we talk about is,
Oh, yes, the weight room, yes, correct, yep.
the other thing we talked about too, I didn't mention before, is unfortunately with the office change, we'll probably need to remove the tree outside. Mr. Vanna's office, we looked at trying to, how we can move it, replant it. Darla's talked to several, including Arbiter, and it's just too big. So that will have to go down, but we'll look at replacing that something out front or replacing the trees. And then the utility poles as well, they just kind of run streetlights. I talked to Joy Roberts about that as well, as our city poles, and see if we can get those removed for that too, which helps with parking, but also just makes it a little more aesthetically pleasing, so.
And also, we had a executive committee met last week. Talked about the track estimate, the secure entries, the middle school floor, the weight room. We talked about our high school principal position. Talked a little bit about MASB and board training, and also talked about senior trip numbers coming up here in the next few years. We're gonna have to, normally everybody fits on one bus, but it's becoming a issue in a good way. So we talked about maybe purchasing a van of some sort, maybe having to, or we also talked about we had to have our football team stayed overnight, so they were actually out of state when their hotel was out of state, so we had to give approval for that, so.
Mile and a half into Wisconsin.
So. We also talked about committee definitions.
Yep.
And Scott was gonna come up with
Yeah, I'll have,
some
committee,
sort of a more defined for each committee, I guess, I think is what we're,
we also talked about creating a policy committee.
Yes.
As well, looking at how we do policies. So that's something that we can have in our December board meeting. I'll have those definitions for you. Because we'll do committee placements in January, so.
but yeah. That was our executive committee meeting. Any updates from MASB? Ken?
Just very briefly, I attended the Government Relations Committee meeting on the 20th of October. I attended the November 8th board meeting this past Wednesday. And then I also stayed in Lansing through Saturday night for the annual leadership conference. It was very, very good. Anytime you go to a conference, there's a bunch of stuff that don't apply to you, but it was very good. And the most valuable part, I think, is just interacting with board members from around the state. There was 700 people there. So very good classes. And so I highly, highly recommend that again. Next year, make a note, it's gonna be early, it's gonna be in October. I think the dates were 25 through 27 or something like that. It's gonna be in Lansing again. The next year, it's gonna go back to Traverse City. So I highly encourage anybody who can to attend that. I'm going to be going back on December 2 for the Government Relations Committee. The legislature convened this past Thursday, so they've all gone home, and we typically don't meet while they're not in session. So we'll probably meet again in January. So I've got a lot more from the conference I'd like to share, but I just haven't had time to put my thoughts together. So we'll probably do something in December or something.
Okay. All right, thanks, Ken. Moving on to our discussion items. Discussion item A is LEA plan use of funds.
Yep, so this goes back to our ESSER monies. We're gonna continue to use our ESSER monies as we're allowed to and what we budgeted for with social workers, different items like that, and providing the best educational experience we can for our students.
Okay. Discussion item B, the 3188 mental health, COVID money is what it is.
Yes.
And so we had quite a discussion at our committee meeting about this, and we'd like to, thoughts were to use it on the weight room. It's pretty limited to what we can use it on, so I don't know, it's a discussion item, so if anybody has anything that they would like to bring up, I guess now's the time. Appreciate you adding your thoughts or Aaron's thoughts on that. Kids are wanting a little bit more space. Was it a couple of years ago, we only had one fitness class, and now we're up to what?
Yep.
Four fitness classes, and apparently that's not enough.
And it's, can I talk?
Yes.
Sorry, it's hard to stop me, but,
Notice you looked at me.
Ask permission. Raise your hand.
you're the first one to fire me, so when it comes to physical fitness, there's a whole different level that the weight room brings in for the kids, that you have your kids that are not gonna be your basketball players, your football players, they're not your athletic, run around, PE fits at. But there's a whole different spectrum of kids that just wanna learn those healthy lifestyles, healthy habits, and the weight room provides that, learning calisthenics, doing the different exercises, the lifting, the toning, that opens up so many more opportunities for the kids to feel connected and to be getting physically active and to being a part of that, where your traditional PE doesn't typically focus on that, or your PE standards don't focus on that. That's more of learn to catch, learn to talk, that end of it. And it's amazing to see the kids that are in it that would be not your sports athletic kids that are just loving and feeling connected and getting that, and that deep input muscle. It does amazing for the mind and the body, and it's an awesome thing that we'd love to be able to expand and offer more of, because the number of kids that are just hooked, I have not had a single complaint from a child. And they complained when they were put in it, and they're absolutely loving it, complaining that they're gonna be out of there. So, it's just.
So is the room size
The room
making it
size,
difficult for the
it is.
kid size?
It is, it's heavy on the equipment, and as you're moving the bars around, you're moving the weights around, you have to have a lot of space. And we have a lot of kids that end up in the lobby, because if you're doing medicine balls or different things like that, or different stretches, you don't have room in there for it, so they spill to the lobby. But there's a lot of different equipment that we don't have or can't utilize, like treadmills or bicycles, that kind of stuff, that you could put more kids on and safely maintain a larger number of kids doing a variety. And again, it's teaching them different things that later on in life, if they know how to do it, they can continue on at home, they can continue on later. It's building the healthy habits. But just 22 is very tight, and usually there's 4 or 5 or 6 that are out in the lobby doing activities there, just so that they can be spread out and be safe in there, so you're not running into equipment or different people as they're going through. So it's just trying to get that extra would be amazing, just to find any space one way or the other and have more to offer. Everything is pretty much weight-based right now. You don't have the endurance or cardio. If you look at me, I'm probably the last person to talk about, physical fitness here, so, but it was just the different things that are going on, and it's just, the kids are loving it, and the excitement that they have for it, and just be able to have more options would be a really cool thing for them, and it builds a healthier lifestyle, and it really helps them deal with stress. And there's some kids, like, they come in wired, and they come out of weight training, and they're just ready to go. It's a good balancer for them. And we have a huge amount of middle schoolers that are going after school and utilizing to the point where we're having to create expectations and sign-in sheets and permission, because we're getting so many kids that are utilizing after school that it's becoming very crowded. And those are, again, typically your non-sports kids that are wanting to utilize it, especially coming out of that class, wanting to go more. And a lot of the kids I talk to are looking forward to using it, continuing it on, since they can't have it during the day, continuing into the spring months, because they like what they're seeing. They like how they feel when they're doing it, and their body image, their self-esteem is really changing, and that confidence. And so they want to continue on with it as it goes.
Thank you.
Kevin, could I address the board?
Yep, you can.
Okay. For those that were not on the executive committee, they've already heard this. I need to explain why I do not support the use of this money in this fashion. It's not that I don't support what you're doing, but I think we need to look a little broader than what we've discussed. Back in June of 2023, we set together a facility plan, and everybody was involved in that, and all the priorities were identified. This did not appear anywhere as a need. The sinking fund committee met in July of that year to determine how we were going to use our sinking fund money. This again was not prioritized anywhere as being a need. It was said that this item was in our 2018 and 2019 bond proposal, and it was, which was thoroughly defeated. And again, as far as what was in that bond issue, there was, as you know, there was hundreds of items in there. This board has never reviewed or approved that as any kind of priority. So yes, it's true it was in there, but it really is of no significance. I personally feel that there's higher priorities, and I'm going to talk specifically about school security and safety. And I know there's a lot of argument, I know there's a lot of ifs and ands about what we can use this for and what we can't use it for. I don't doubt in any fashion the benefits that come from weight room and how that contributes to mental health and security. I also am going to say that I think making sure our kids have a safe, secure environment is just as valuable and just as vital as weight room training. I mean, we want kids in a secure environment, and I think that contributes as much or more to kids' mental health, knowing that they're in a safe environment. I was really disappointed in the input we got from the state of Michigan. The state of Michigan was very clear that this does not comply with the intent of that funding. And then they turned around and said, but the boilerplate language doesn't prohibit it. To me, that was a stupid response, but what else could we expect? So I would say, okay, if the boilerplate language doesn't prohibit that, then it also doesn't contribute using those funds toward increasing our safety. I thought, I was very disappointed in that response. Anyway, in my way of thinking, I'm not discrediting using funds that way. I think we have bigger priorities. And to me, school safety and security rises above what the proposed use is.
Okay, thanks, Ken.
Okay, so what other safety things could we be adding if we did go ahead and use the money for that? What would this go for? Do we know, or there's more things we're not able to?
Are you asking me or
Yeah.
Ken? I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
Yep.
I'm looking at both of you.
Yeah. So this money was allocated last school year with the 31AA funds, which was targeted towards mental health, student and staff mental health. We cannot use this money for security. The new allocation this school year, the 23-24 school year, lumped the 31AA monies in with the school security monies that we already had. So this allotment we can use for school security. So we are paying for Jacob Pouch this year out of that money, our safety officer out of that money. Last year's 22-23 allocation, this has been on the agenda for a year, close to a year, trying to figure out what we can spend it for, because we already have increased our social workers by probably 3 times what we had 2 years ago. We're using it for some allocations of PBIS prizes for mental health, for attendance, and we're using some of it for staff mental health as far as workplace culture, climate, environment. What made us approach this weight room, I should say me, I kind of explored this more than anything, was because we're using the weight room as a class, but we're also seeing the mental health benefits from the weight room that we're seeing with the kids. And I know other school districts have used this money for different programs like CrossFit training, different things like that, for the mental health benefits. So we started kind of exploring. We're having a hard time using this money. We have to have it spent by September 30th of 2024, or it gets given back, it goes back to the state, which is $121,000. So this was just an avenue that we decided to try to approach. As Ken said, I reached out to the state and said, hey, what do we need to make this, what can we do? He talked about different things initially, as far as the benefit to mental health. We talked about surveying the kids before the class, after the class, during the class, and different things like that. But yeah, then he came back and said, although we don't recommend this, this does meet the requirements of the boilerplate language. And I think I kind of have a little bit of shock from that, because if you remember back to COVID monies, there was going back to required and recommended and all of the different avenues, and that just kind of struck me. But yeah, I would have loved to have a clear definitive answer to that. Our weight room has become more of a classroom than it has a weight room, as Mr. Finsterman said, and believe me or not, I did not ask Mr. Finsterman to talk about this.
I did not talk to him
at all today, about this. We have, like I said, $121,000. I would ask so to go back to what Ken said, they also had architectural drawings done in the district in 2014 that I found out about when I reached out to the architects about that space, and they replied, oh, we already have drawings for that. They wanted to do that when they built the auditorium. That was not, you're right, but Ken is 100% right. It is not under facility needs assessment that we did in June, 100% correct.
But that wouldn't, there's nothing on our facility needs list that can be used for.
Not that I can see for mental health, no. My recommendation or my request to the board was to go out to bid. Let's see what the bid comes in at, and then we decide in our December meeting if our process is back in, our proposal is back in. We might as well go out to bid when we go out for offices, and 2 separate proposals, but at the same time, because you're gonna have the same people looking at the same projects.
Correct.
I think we all know that when the influx of this money we had with ESSER funds and COVID funds or whatever, I think we all gotta admit that the definition of what they could be used for was just about a mile wide.
Oh, yeah.
And no matter what you do, if you work long enough, you can tie it to mental health. It's a matter of words, and I guess I would challenge whether a link could not be made back to mental health with this. That's my position. I know other schools are using it for this. I know one other school. I am not gonna say the year thing, I can't testify to that. But I know I've heard superintendents say that they're using this money for school security. But I'm not gonna testify about the year thing. I don't know that, so I'm not gonna mislead anybody in that regard. That's just my position.
Yeah, I get your position that, it wasn't in a facilities plan or needs or anything, but I think we'd all agree that that's a living, breathing plan that can change. And this is something that's
But
brought to our attention.
Right, I agree with that, yeah. But it was formulated just in June. It's only 3 months old, because that's when everybody's needs was put in a pot. That's 3 months ago, or 4 months ago. And I'm not doubting the benefit of the plan. I'm just saying, in my mind, there's a higher priority that we should work to. Everywhere we turn now, just like Scott talked, we're really being hit by inflationary pressures in all this stuff. And so I think this money could very well supplement other efforts we have ongoing, and that's just where I'm at.
Okay, thanks for your opinion, Ken, and everybody's. Are we ready to move on?
We do have another public comment. If we have public here, at the end of the meeting, if anyone would like to chime in on the topic.
Very true. Okay, moving on to discussion item C. Return to in-person instruction, continuity of learning. Repeat.
Yeah, we're gonna be in person, and we're gonna continue to educate our kids in person.
Okay. Extra discussion item D, school calendar.
And this is something that Mrs. Volker had talked about last meeting, that we would put it on as a discussion item, so.
Want me to say why?
Yes, please.
Okay. So over the last year, it has been evident, Lake City just had an intercession, I think a couple of weeks ago. Catholic Schools is going to have kind of an additional intercession in February. Mr. Biller said that half of our high school is attending CTC. And so my question I know the ISD superintendents meet and all of that, and just kind of being transparent as far as where our ISD calendar is headed, where our school calendar is headed, what are our thoughts on that? last board meeting, the principals presented data about maybe some learning lost over the summer months. And so I just, I work in a field where some of my parents were affected by these intercessions, and I am all about transparency. I just do not want any surprises on our calendar. I don't want it shared on Facebook and parents to say, where did this come from? And I just really wanted us to have open discussion about where we think it's really the ISD. Because I don't love how all of these schools have different calendars and how it affects the CTC, and I just think that really is something that needs to be considered. So that's why I put it as a discussion. We don't have to discuss it, this is what I think, and I wanted it out there because, like I said, I know there were some pretty upset parents about some of the changes in some of the other districts' calendars, and what are we gonna do for childcare? And I know school's not daycare, I understand that as well. But like maybe are we looking at, could standardized testing go later into May? Well, if you look at standardized testing later into May, it's gonna be a sweat box in here. And so those are things that I just want to have out.
So is your major concern the difference in the schools' calendars?
Yeah,
And
I
the
think it's very
inconsistency?
inconsistent. I think that's very odd. I think it's very odd that, in our ISD, all these, we're an ISD together. And then our students, half of our high school goes to the Career Tech Center. Well, what does the Career Tech Center do when, all of a sudden this half group isn't here this week and this half a group isn't here this week? I just don't think that's the best learning. And I think we need to be on the same page. And I think it needs to be more of a district-wide calendar than just this nilly-willy here or there. But that's just Becky Volker's thought on it, not, everybody else's thought on it.
Well, maybe Ryan, how does the ISD set their school calendar? I mean, do they consider ours at all, or they just go off on their own, or? And what do we do when our calendars don't mesh, when they have classes and we're on break? I mean, how does that all work?
Can't go to school if they're not there, So I'll let Scott speak to it, because I think he might have a little bit more insight to it, just because of the involvement at the superintendent level.
So we set out ISD calendars 5 years in advance. If you go on the ISD website, they have calendar 5 years out. If you guys remember, if you're on the board, 8-9 years ago, the state offered what was called best practice money. And the best practice money was you had the same calendar as the ISD. All of you had all these checks that you had to make. One of them was the same exact calendar across the ISD. Well, when the money went away to that and tied into that, so did the common calendar. So now the common calendar currently is, you have to have the same spring break and the same Christmas break together, which all you have to do if you want to change that is apply for a waiver. And that's writing a letter, and you get an email response typically back within that hour saying it's approved to change that. Last year I had to write a waiver because our Christmas break was different than the ISD's Christmas break, so we wrote a waiver for that.
A waiver from the state or to the ISD?
To the ISD, you have to go to the state after that.
Okay.
So then you go back to state control, local control, and your local school districts want to control their own calendar. What's going to happen if another school district jumps on board with one of our others with an intercession? I don't know. We've talked about it briefly at superintendent's meetings about the calendars, and as right now, that's not even a thought in the CTC's mind or ISD's mind as far as doing that until the majority goes. Now, I can tell you, when we have snow days, if Cadillac School closes, the CTC and ISD will also close. Where before that used to be a majority. It never used to be one district drove that. It was Cadillac and 2 other districts, or Cadillac and 3 other districts. Now it's Cadillac alone or 5 other districts. Is that potential there, Ms. Volker? Potentially. There's always that potential. I would think that we would have at least a year or 2 notice before that was to take place. Minimum a year. But also, I think it also gives the opportunity for local communities to create their own calendar too. So there's pros and cons to it, but when half of your staff go to, or half of your students, not 10th or 11th and 12th graders go to the CTC, that's significant. And if they don't have schooling, during that time, it becomes a high school problem too, so.
Yeah, so what do? They come to school?
They're half day,
Oh, they would
they're
have.
half day with us.
Okay.
So they still have a full schedule, right, of a day,
Yeah.
and they would have to attend their half day with
But
us.
what do they do?
Go
You're
home?
only here half a day.
Yeah, they're over
What if
here.
they ride
Oh,
the
I
bus?
see. Oh, so
If
they
they
don't,
do ride the bus, we have our student lounge, our library, we have other places that we
Okay.
have kids, and we do have that from time to
Sure.
time. But kids are pretty, resourceful.
They're gonna get out of here.
They'll find a ride.
Yep, exactly,
so
okay.
what do you,
That's fair.
this might be a dumb question, but what do you mean by intercession?
A break,
Oh, a break.
a winter
Like,
break.
It was so far, it's just Lake City, isn't it? Lake City took a week off in
Lake
October.
City did a week 2 weeks ago in the fall, and then Cadlick has one in February, along with a spring break.
Now, remember, so school calendars, you have to have 185 staff days and 180 student days. So this year was unique because you had, it's a leap year, and there was another holiday. So really, they only had to take 3 additional days in order to meet. I don't know if that's gonna stay or not with them, so.
That was it, I just, like I said, throwing it out.
Yeah, no, I think it's a good discussion, and I
No,
think
it
it's
is.
something
It's definitely.
we need to be aware of, for sure.
Thank you.
So do you know what other ISDs do? I mean, they must have the same problem, or?
Yeah, I don't, Ken. Unless they, I don't. Because the ISD and CTC also have their own calendar that they work with their union groups too, so. But,
All right, good discussion. Thanks for bringing that up there, Becky.
You're welcome.
Discussion item E, kinda already talked about track / middle school gym floor. I don't know if we need to discuss it anymore, or?
I guess looking for a little bit of direction, do we wanna put a little bit of a pause on the middle school gym floor until we get the track bid in? We may have to go back out to bid for asbestos, or we may have to wait until next year, I shouldn't say asbestos, for the abatement of the asbestos. Or do we wanna wait, until next summer to address it, where that's our main project next summer? I am concerned about the funds and what we have available, because if we have to shift some funds to the track from sinking fund, that's really gonna limit what we can do in the gym.
So because I don't sit on the executive or the building and grounds committee, so this track bid, it's a lot, and it's a lot of stuff that I'm kind of surprised to see on it. I guess I'm just gonna be very blunt.
Sure.
There are a lot of things that I would never put in this bid, and that I would say that, okay, we're gonna have the sports boosters look to raise that, or we're gonna take some of that out of the general fund, and I get drainage, but there's so much more on this than drainage, and so I wanna, like, when it says go to bid, are we going to bid with this in mind?
No.
Because I would say,
So we're gonna have add-ons or addendums, to it, so, hey, here's the basic bid for the track, put in the price to put this in there too, the handicap ramp.
okay,
Put the price to put this in here too. I've asked them to take off the scoreboard and the sound system and everything, because I believe we can raise those funds. This was just, hey, this is what we're looking at, right?
or this is kind of like a high-level wish list,
Yes.
but we are, okay.
Yes.
Because, I mean, in a perfect world, I can absolutely understand that we're gonna come over budget, right? I can see no problem with that, but to say, okay, we're going to a bond, we're going to all of this, and we're gonna come in $1 million over, no.
No, right.
Okay,
No.
just making sure, because I haven't been part of any of
But I
these
don't
meetings,
know how much
so.
we're gonna go over even for the basic,
Okay.
right? So that's what concerns me, is I wanna
So-
be wise
Okay.
with the finance.
So I just definitely, having a budget for this and what it's gonna look at and
Yep.
staying as close to that initial as possible, okay,
Yep.
got it.
That's our goal,
Property.
yep.
Property committee hasn't met since this came through.
Okay,
Yes.
Yeah, I echo Becky's concern
this
about,
is
after looking at the list.
a
And
mess.
I think we have to be very, very careful. We were pretty specific when we went out for bond money regarding the track. There were basically 3 items. There was a track, and there was a handicap access issue, and there was irrigation system.
Great.
Those were the 3 basic legs that we went out to the voters on. And I think we have to be very cognizant of that. I also think we have to be very, very careful on the sinking funds. I think we have to be very, very careful before we do start diverting a lot of that money to what we ask for a bond. I fully understand the situation, but I think we have to be very cognizant of what we told the public. We didn't, in the sinking fund, we didn't go out with tons of detail, but we did go out with some detail, what our priorities was with technology and the gym floor, and we were, roofs, and we were very, somewhat specific. I think we have to be very careful about how much we shift onto that. I think we just have to see where the ball falls, but I think we are very cognizant of those issues.
And that's why I would like to take this approach, because I agree with you 100%.
That's fine, I just, like I said, and then I just see this, we'll push this and we'll do this some other time, we'll just keep pushing it, and then we're gonna get to the end of 10 years, and it's, and so whether we have to look at the general fund budgets, or whether we have to look at what we're doing hearsay or whatever,
Right, yeah, because we do have capital project funds as well.
Yes.
And different things too. Yeah.
Okay.
And I think we knew we had drainage problems, but I think we
Absolutely.
underestimated how bad those drainage problems were.
Yeah,
Until an engineer looks at it, and you're calling for bidding, there's no way to know.
yeah,
Right,
And the biggest thing is we want something that's gonna last another 30 years.
Absolutely.
absolutely.
We don't want to
There's
Band-Aid.
there was inherent drainage problems up there from day one, and it was addressed on a couple occasions, but it was
What wasn't it?
obviously never solved.
Right.
Then we fix it, then we fix it.
Okay?
Okay, so I will pause on the gym floor until we see what the track bid is in.
Yes.
And then hopefully we can do everything.
All right. Good discussion. Moving on to our action items, just a few of them tonight. Action item A, Neola 38-1, first reading. PO 1540, PO 2370.01, PO 7217, PO 7540.03, PO 8305, and PO 8531. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Support. Motion and support for the Neola policies. Any discussion on these?
Thought you were gonna read them to us, but.
The most crucial one, obviously, is the weapons policy, and that really represents not much change, right?
Yeah. Good enough.
Okay, what drove us to redo that one?
It was just time for an update.
Oh,
I think concealed weapons laws, for that. And then also the other technology, there was two technology ones that we referred to, our acceptable use policy with artificial intelligence. And then also artificial intelligence on the other one, which I ran through, the tech deck, and they said that those were pretty basic, they were good to go, so.
So the weapons one, just for clarity, it's weapons are prohibited even with a concealed permit,
Correct,
unless it's law enforcement or other obvious things.
correct.
Okay.
Weapons free zone, yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting that extends 1,000 feet from school property.
All right, we have a motion and support.
Which is hard for us to control.
Yeah.
Any more discussion?
I'm gonna have a gun in my house.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Action item B, Monica Mulder resignation.
Make a motion to accept the resignation?
Support. Motion and support for Monica. Any discussion?
No, I'd just like to thank Monica for her years here and wish her good luck on her new adventure.
Yep. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Action item C, the three additional 77 passenger buses purchased from Midwest Transit. This would be for next year.
Well, we would, if approved, we would purchase the buses, we'd do a PO this year, tomorrow, and then hopefully we'd have them in the spring so that we were all set and not waiting, throughout the beginning of the year next year, so next school year, so yes.
Motion. Support.
Motion and support for speaking for 3 buses for next year.
We have all the fund for those already on hand from the bond.
From the bond, correct?
All those,
Are you proposing one of these 3 or
Midwest Transit.
Midwest?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's who we use, and that's who Scott and them really
Okay.
enjoy.
okay, we have motion support, any more discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Action item D is the McBain resignation.
Make a motion.
Support.
Motion support for B. Lindsay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And then over on the back side of your page, the next one is the McBain hire recommendation.
Make a motion we approve that hire.
Support.
Motion support for Lindsay for hire recommendation. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, now it is time for public comment again. Would any of your students like to add to our meeting?
Now's your time.
There is no pressure.
There's no pressure. All right, hearing none, I guess we will move on to our board roundtable. This is a time where we just, as a board, if we have something on our mind,
I'll just say, it was good to have, we had a home football game, miserable conditions. The band was out there, good to hear. I got a friend that says, we go to other schools and you hear their band and they're not that good sometimes. He says there's 2 songs that they gotta know. It's the national anthem and the school fight song. We went to Menominee this week. You heard them, they didn't have the national anthem down very good. Mrs. Wiggins does an amazing job. So, it was good to see him out there in the rain. Thank her for it.
good thoughts.
That's a lot of times their entertainment when they're out in the field practicing. That's their entertainment.
Awesome, thanks Ken for being on the MASP board.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
appreciated.
It's, I was a little bit disappointed in the delegate assembly. Some of there was we all know in education, there's a lot of stuff going on. A lot of not good stuff. And they sometimes refer to as a woke agenda. Well, that's very much alive. And some of the MASB positions were changed as a result of their pressures, and when the vote came, they were in the majority. So I was disappointed in that. It's nothing major, but it's a slippery slide when you start taking out certain things. And MASB had made a proposal, which was very good, but this delegation proposed an amendment, and they succeeded. So I don't know, I was disappointed in that, but that's life today.
All right, anybody else? Do I have a motion for adjournment?
I would make that motion. Support.
Motion support to adjourn, any more discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, meeting is adjourned.
Good luck to everyone that's hunting Wednesday this week, and be safe.
There you go.